I don't know if I can stay out in the open for this one. I think I gotta hide. It's not safe. It's no. Bandana is the follow-up album. Freddie Gibbs, Madlib, Mad Gibbs, teaming up once again, 5 years after the breakout album between these two guys, Piñata. Man, what a huge album that was. I mean, back when that dropped, people went crazy. I've gotta be honest, I have cooled down on it since the release, but I was all over that thing when it dropped. It was such a big highlight for me in 2014. Definitely the best thing Freddie Gibbs has ever done, I think, and a big highlight in Madlib's production career as well. Not the best he's ever done, but certainly up there in terms of the beat selection that he made for fucking Freddie. He brought the best out of Freddie, I think. People disagree though. Some people think Freddie puts out better music on his own, or equally as good music on his own, or with other people, like the Fetty album that came out last year as well, or it was more like an EP really. But let's be real, I think there wouldn't have been such a high demand for this album if people didn't think Freddie was putting out the better music of his career when with Madlib. And I don't know if this was ever the plan, if this was ever their intention to drop another album together, but I think the amount of people that wanted this just pushed them to do it. And I totally respect that because they're a good duo together, so why not put out more music? And now it's here. Once again, getting rave reviews, people calling it an instant classic, the usual things that get said about hip hop albums one day after it's released. But I don't like it. I'm sorry, this is not gonna go down well at all. But yeah, I just can't get into this. I just really cannot get into this album like whatsoever. I really can't. This isn't me saying it's bad. In fact, there are definitely a lot of good qualities about this album that I can see why people are loving it as much as they are. So I'm not out here saying, why do you like this album? What's so good about it? Tell me, why do you all rave about this? And I'm just here to say, this is just far from the type of hip hop that's for me, I think. It for me is just the most typical rap album I could ever lay my ears on. And I know that's not going to go down well, but I've got to be honest. I come on this camera and tell you the truth. Not the truth in that what I say is right, but the truth in that I believe what I'm saying and I wouldn't lie to you. It ticks every box, every rap cliche box that you could find in a list this album has. Like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You got this rough and tough, hard as nails rapper you wouldn't mess with. Yeah, we've heard it all before. You've got this jazzy, soulful, 90s ish production that I feel like I've heard not only 100 times before from Madlib himself, but about 1,050 million times before in just general hip hop albums I come across. And the lyrics are just so typical as well. I don't think there was a single track lyrically that interested me at all. I genuinely don't. Some lines here and there that Freddie drops, I do think were quite introspective and quite personal and quite revealing. Like every so often, he had this like one-liner which I was really impressed with. But it was quite simple, but it kind of depicted what he was trying to say really well. Like on the track Soul Right, which is the closing track, and if I had to pick a track that I would call my favourite, whatever that really means in regards to this album, it would be this track, I think. I just like that little set of bars where he says, I've been struggling my whole life, I break it down and it's all white. My mama said everything would always be alright. Obviously, with that all white line, he is talking about cocaine because what else does he talk about on this album? It's referenced so often that it's just so obvious. But I think it's that line afterwards about his mum telling him everything would always be okay. I just like that little bit because it just adds a human touch to the album that I don't think you really get throughout, because not to say that I need to relate to anything on this album, I need to relate to Freddie at any point, but it just does remind you that, yeah, you know what, he is a human that needs his mother. He needs that care from her. He needs that advice sometimes, you know what I mean? He needs her approval. He needs those words coming from her. And yeah, maybe those type of moments do crop up elsewhere on the album, but there's just so much to sift through that doesn't interest me, where nothing really stands out lyrically at any other point. At this point, I feel very similar to Freddie as I do to John Wick. Like, this is another take I have, which is completely not agreeable for most people, but John Wick at this point, like, there's just nothing engaging about him as a character. Like, you just see him kill people on screen, and it makes for a good action film, but like, there's just no substance whatsoever. And I feel like Freddy is very similar at this point. He's got so much action, he's got so much craziness going on in his life that you couldn't even picture or imagine what are the things he's seen, but he doesn't really present it in a very interesting way, like, ever. Like that one line where he mentions how in 1989 he saw, someone die, and that could potentially have a really engaging story, but I just think Freddie's limited lyrical abilities just hold him back because he has to move on to something else. Maybe he brags on the next line, maybe he brings up crime again and again and again, and it just really it makes the album suffer, I think. And it's not to say that in the past that there's never been an interesting album made using this type of subject matter, because that's not true, but I just feel like I'm not getting it here. As for the production, I'm not really that impressed. If this was a beat tape, I think I'd play it once and I'd never go back to it again. And sure, they definitely work well together. There's no denying that. Freddie fits over this production well, but he's just not really that diverse, I don't think. He raps so similarly on almost every track for me that I just quickly lose interest after 3 or 4 songs, which wasn't an issue with Piñata, I don't think. He definitely does throw in some nice hooks here and there. I do think on the track Crime Pays, I do think that's got a good hook. But yeah, there's just very little here that I care that much about. Even the Anderson .Paak feature, which completely overtakes the song. I just think it's unnecessary. And you guys know how much I like Paak at this point, of course. I think he's great vocalist, incredibly talented, but he added so much to the song that I think it ended up taking away from the song. Pusha T and Killer Mike come on one of the tracks together. What a lineup you've got there, and yet there is just no chemistry whatsoever. Like, the chemistry is non-existent. Killer Mike comes through, doesn't really impact the track very well, to be honest. Push then comes in, bragging about the usual things we've heard him brag about over and over again, without that charisma. Like, Daytona had so much charisma that it was oozing with so much personality, and on this track here he's just lost it, and it's just really dull. This album is incredibly one note. I just get nothing out of these tracks. They're all the same. Freddie said it himself, he came out the womb as a gangster, so that's all you're gonna get lyrically from him ever. And if that's what you're into, you're gonna like this. But for me, I just need more than that. I need more than this. It's just too much of the same for too long. You can hear 2 tracks from this album and you've heard the whole thing. Like, I don't get it, man. I'm in the minority. This album will be highly regarded, probably even in years to come as well. Same with Piñata. I at least see it more with Piñata, but I don't. People are really going to need to explain this one to me in the comments, please. Be civil as well, but man, I hope I've explained my thoughts well enough throughout. I would have dug deeper into the lyrics if there was more diversity, but you're really getting the same thing copied and pasted on almost every track. Madlib's production is not that impressive either, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that he did it on an iPad. I don't know why people even cared about that. It's fucking 2019. It's amazing that he created this album on an iPad, an album that's gonna get rave reviews and it will sell very well was made on a friggin' iPad. That's insane to me. But it doesn't mean the beats are good. It doesn't mean they're bad, but they're not that good either. 5 out of 10, this is straight down the middle. It's nothing remotely bad here, by the way. It was pretty listenable as an album, to be fair, but I got nothing out of it. I just think this is an incredibly stiff album that offers nothing to me at all. And again, I should express, not all albums that deal with this type of subject matter are average or less than average, lower than a 5 out of 10, but this particular one is for me. Even Freddie's rhyming throughout was quite basic, honestly. I was impressed reading through some of the tracks, lyrics, and seeing how simple some of his rhyming is, but that still doesn't really matter because my enjoyment of the album just wasn't there. Hope you liked More Than Me. Hope you don't hate me after this review. Try and be civil if you can. Thank you for watching my review. Have a good day. I'm gonna break the dislike record. It's gonna do it, isn't it? I'm gonna hide again. Oh my god.